Hi, and welcome to Perky Penny Paper Arts. Today we're going to make this adorable bridge fold card that I made last week as part of the Whimsy Stamps and Wow Embossing Powders blog hop. I'll be using several beautiful Wow Embossing Powder colors, along with the Whimsy Stamps Adopt Don't Shop stamp set and Happy Sayings die set, and this really cool digital pattern paper pack that I purchased, downloaded, and printed at home. This was a first for me, and I'm pretty sure it won't be the last. To start the card, I chose these two papers from the paper pack and printed out one of the wood design and two of the brick design on 100-pound paper. Now, I'll say not all printers will be able to do this on such thick paper, but I have a color laser printer that has a feature where the paper can feed through to the back. I'll make sure to link to my printer on the accompanying blog post. I trimmed them down to 6 by 6 and set the white borders aside for future use. I took the wood paper and cut one piece that's 5 inches by 1 1/4 inches, making sure the wood grain was going in the right direction. I then took the brick paper and cut 4 1-inch by 4-inch pieces and 1 2 3/4 inch by 4-inch pieces, making sure these were also in the correct direction. Additionally, I cut an 8-inch by 4 1/4 inch piece of black cardstock for my card base and a 2 3/4 by 4-inch white panel for the back of the card for a message. I will use a few of the scraps to cut out the happy frame die and stamp a few embellishments I'll create for the front of the card. I began with the brick pattern, where I used a paw print and a wolf stamp from the Adopt Don't Shop set to create some graffiti-like decorations for the front of the card, with embossing ink and Wow opaque primary mandarin embossing powder, applying the rule of threes as you can see. I then scored my card base at 1 1/2 inches and 2 1/2 inches, flipped it over and repeated that on the other side, and then folded and creased them to create the folds. And then, with my dotted tape runner, I applied adhesive and attached the brick pieces to the front of the card. I flipped the wood panel over and marked off where I wanted the adhesive on the wood panel. Notice, to make this card into an A2 card size, you only fold the left half of the card first, with a mountain fold and then a valley fold. This wood piece is attached on the very bottom of the panel to the first and last sections of the card to accommodate this fold. This card design is so versatile. You can take this bridge and put it anywhere, not just at the bottom. You could even do multiple bridges, whatever suits your fancy. Let your imagination take over and have fun with it. As you can see, I have several stamps from the Adopt Don't Shop stamp set lined up in my MISTI. I stamped 2 of the dog stamps, as I'll want a full set for the front and a couple of individual pups for the back. I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink, as I'll be coloring the images with my Copic markers. I stamped one of the sentiments in Versum Fine Onyx Black ink, which as a pigment ink can have the clear Wow embossing powder applied to it to give shine and dimension to this soon-to-be sign on the wall. I then stamped the other saying in Versamark embossing ink and applied the same color as I used previously on the brick paper. I cut out the black sign and framed it with a scrap of black cardstock. To give the other sign a vintage effect, I tore the edges of it and applied antique linen distress ink so it would look like it had been there for a while. It's always fun to make something new look old again, isn't it? I adhered these signs up on the front of the card with some foam squares to make them pop, and pop they did. I love this stitched square from the Happy Sayings die set from Whimsy Stamps. There's also a stamp set with all kinds of words to stamp in the middle, but today I chose to use the word woof for fun. I pressed the front of the die-cut paper onto my Versamark ink pad so it would be really inky, and applied some Wow Misty Sky embossing powder to it, melting the embossing powder with my heat tool. I wanted to give it more dimension, so I repeated this process one more time. I really love how round and metal it looks. When this piece was completely dry and cooled down, I hit it with the embossing buddy and then stamped the word woof over the embossed center in Versamark ink. I sprinkled it with Wow embossing powder in opaque primary mandarin and heat set it. Check out how the word melts into the piece as if they were one. Isn't it cool? When this piece was cooled down, I added tape runner adhesive to the back and centered the frame on the white panel. I finished it off by stamping "Congrats on your new fur baby" and then attached this panel to the back of the card. To save time, I'm not going to show the coloring today. I'll list the colors of markers that I used and a link to a coloring guide for animals in the blog post that accompanies this video. I eyeballed where I wanted my doggies to be and then applied adhesive to about the bottom half-inch of the back of the dogs and glued it to the front of the card. I was originally going to decorate the back of this card with 2 pups, but unfortunately the dachshund had a little accident, so I'm just going to use this little chihuahua to cover up a smudge. And this card is done. This is such a special image and such a special stamp set, as $1 from every purchase is donated to Whimsy Stamps' local Animal Rescue League. I hope you enjoyed today's card. Be sure to head on over to the blog post that's linked in the description below for all of the materials and measurements and everything else about this card. Thanks once again for taking the time out of your day to check out my video. If you enjoyed it, a thumbs up's appreciated, and I'm always happy for your comments and suggestions. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Here are a couple of other videos you might enjoy. Until next time, happy crafting! I look forward to seeing you soon.